Hi everybody. Today we are going to look at the top 10 weirdest JavaScript interview questions. They are tricky, they are odd, they're confusing, and the answer of these questions is never what you expect it to be. The problem is sooner or later we all get one of these questions. And when we do, we just want to pull our hair out. So stay tuned to the end of the tutorial because I will explain why do people ask such questions and why would you want to ask such question in an interview. So welcome to techsith tutorials. All right, so here's the first question. It's an easy one. So what is the answer to this? When I do console log, now I want you to just think about it. We'll pause the video, think about it, come up with an answer, and then tell you answer with the one I'm going to give it to you. All right, so I hope you have an answer for me. And so this is how it works. When you use a plus sign, it usually works on two numbers where you add two numbers, or you have strings where it will concat strings. Otherwise, it will have to typecast. So it will typecast to string. And so what it will do is it will try to convert an empty array into a string. And when you convert empty array into a string, you get an empty string. And to prove it, if I do this console log string, this is how you do typecast, and this. So if I run it in the console, it gives me an empty string, and I can prove it. So if I just do this and run it, it would also give me empty string. So it's basically empty string plus empty string is an empty string. Empty array plus an empty array is an empty string. Now you might get similar answer where they'll give you something like this, an empty object and array, empty array, or empty object plus empty object. So you have to do the same thing. And if you cannot explain it, let's say if you don't know the answer to a certain typecasting, then you would just simply say, well, first I would convert this into a string and this into a string and try to add it together and see what happens. That would be acceptable answer. You don't have to have an exact answer as long as you understand the concept. All right, so here's the second question. What is the result of this console log? So you have a function called a, and then here you have a sentence which is being printed out as a console. So again, just pause the video, think about it for a few seconds, and then I'll give you the answer. All right, so let's try to understand this. So first of all, let's look at this function. It's a simple function that simply returns hello. Basically no matter what you pass, it will return hello, right? All right, so then let's look at line 5, where it says sentence equal to a and hi. Now this is what is called tagged templates, where if you have a function and you put a template strings next to it, it will be considered as an argument to this function. So as if like if I do this I would pass, and so if I did this, if I run this function again, since it's not taking any input, it would just return hello. So actually console log of this would be hello and hi would be ignored. And if you want to look at more in detail what tagged templates are, I have a tutorial on it. I'll provide a link here. All right, the third question is, take any web page and make all its content editable. So for example, and such that I can just click on anything here. For example, and I can convert it into Techsithpedia, my own website. I don't have to change much here. How would you do that using JavaScript? So the answer to the question is, I can have a div with some content, say hello, and inside I can say content editable equal to true. And when I render it, I would get hello, obviously, but I can actually change it here because it's content editable equal to true. So let's say if I take this Wikipedia page and I want to make the entire web page editable, all I have to do is if I go to inspect element, and in the console I would say document dot body, which means entire document, and content editable equal to true. And as soon as I do that and close it, now I can actually go here and start changing to techsithpedia, the free techsith tutorials. I don't know, I can make my own website basically. So this is how you do it. And it's a cool trick that you can impress your coworkers if they don't know it. Okay, so the next question is, and this is a trickier one, what is the answer to this? So I have a function called y and object x, and this y is being passed in this method as an argument. So if I do x dot method and y and some argument, what would be the answer? Again, pause it and really try to see what the result might be. All right, so the answer to this question is 2. And the reason it's 2 is you have an object called x, which has a method, which is a function. So this function. So if I call x.method, which means it's calling this method, which means it's calling this function. Now you're passing 2 arguments, y and 1. Y is nothing but this. So inside of this method, it says argument 0. So arguments object is basically whatever arguments you have, if you don't know what arguments are. So inside a function, when I can say arguments, which will be like an array-like object which holds all the arguments. So this would hold y and 1, and then the first element would be y, and it would execute this function. So it will actually execute y. And so whatever y gives you the answer, that will be the console log. So y simply says this dot length. Now you might think that this dot length is this length here, so the answer should be 5. Because arguments is an array-like object, this really mean arguments. And the length, you know the length of the array, which would be 2 because you have 2 arguments. So that's a confusing part that you need to know, that this would be the length of the arguments. Again, it's a really tricky question. You can play this trick on your friends as well. All right, so let's look at this next one. It's a simple one, but a tricky one too. So pause the video and I'll tell you the answer. All right, so the answer to this question is 1. And that is because, first of all, x is a string, which is called constructor. And so when I do this, x, which means I'm trying to find the property x of x. And I can substitute to this, which means constructor, or I can call it something like this, right? As well. So I'm trying to find the property constructor of x. Now x is a string. Now if you can create string with a literal, or you can create as an object as well. So let's say if I'm gonna comment this out here, and I'm gonna create a string object. So if I say, let's say const x equal to new string, and I can say constructor, and if I console log it, I would get string object. And if I expand it, I would see its prototype, and inside its prototype, I would see constructor. And this is one of the properties, right? So if I do console log x dot constructor and run it again, I would get a function string which created this function. So now we already know that this part is nothing but a function string. So which means x is nothing but a string function. So whatever I pass to this would be converted to string. So if I do x and execute this function, with this argument, it will try to convert 0, 1 into string. And when you do that, you will get 1. If I run this, I would get, I hope you're still enjoying this video. All right, so before we move to the next question, I just have a very quick announcement to make, and please hear me out. You know, if you're enjoying this video, please hear me out. It's a short announcement. I won't take you a lot of time. And it's very important for me at least. YouTube has changed their policy, and they're constantly changing. And one of the things they're doing is they're changing their policy toward the content where they should provide advertisements. And that is because a lot of kids videos, they're YouTubers who would put really bad content on the kids videos, you know, bad words, violence, and all kind of bad stuff. And YouTube wants to control it. And what they are saying is, if you put those kind of stuff out there, we're gonna restrict all the advertisement on it. So automatically your hits would go down, and you know you'll be punished for it. So they have an automatic system that just whenever you upload a video, it will scan through it and determine that if this video is not appropriate for advertiser. Why am I telling you this? Because unfortunately, from last 3 or 4 weeks, any video that I release getting this tag that this is not appropriate for viewers or for advertisers. So it looks something like this. So I released this video recently, and it says this yellow symbol you see, that means it's not going to be monetized, which means there'll be a limited viewers on here. And there is a way to actually review it, saying that, hey, look, you need to re-review this because automatic system did it. There's some problem here because my video is not what you think it is. But what they are saying that you need to have 1,000 views within 7 days for them to even consider to relook at it, where somebody would physically look at this video. And so this is really frustrating, not only for me, but a lot of YouTubers. I understand YouTube's objective, but it's becoming really confusing, and it's kind of demotivating me to put videos on YouTube. So what I want you to do is, if you can please, if you enjoy my video, please like the video and just provide a short comment. If you do that, then YouTube would think that this video is important, and it would, because of the positivity of it, because of positive thumbs ups, it would remove this flag from yellow to green. And if you do that for my next couple of videos, I would really appreciate it, and I really appreciate your help. I usually don't ask for such thing, but I'm just really frustrated because they just keep doing it, and it's just annoying. All right, so our next question is this: when you add 0.1 and 0.2, what is the answer? Again, as I said, it's not what it seems to be. So whatever answer that, I mean, unless you know this question and you already know the answer, just pause the video and think about it. And all right, so the answer is, if I run this, the answer is this: 0.30000 and the fourth. So there are 14 digits after floating point, and that is because in JavaScript or for any other languages, doing the floating point addition is very difficult, and that is because the decimals are in base 10 and the computer only understands base 2, so you have to do a conversion, and because of that you'll get this precision error. And there's some other calculation will get this error. Not every calculation would get this error. All right, so the next question is this: console log hi dot underscore underscore proto underscore underscore dot proto underscore underscore proto. You get it. So what is the answer to this? Pause the video and let me know. This one is actually easy if you understand prototype chain, and that's the trick. All right, so the answer to this question is hi is obviously a string, and its proto is its creator. What is hi is created from? It's created using string constructor. So if I just do this, console log it, I would get string. Now, what's created string? So there in JavaScript, there is an object called object with capital O. That constructor creates all the objects. So if I run this, I would get this constructor, which is the object, as you see here. Now, what creates object? Now, object is the final top level constructor. There is nothing beyond this. So if you try to do this, it should give you null. So depending on where you are, you will get different answer. And I have a tutorial on prototype chain if you wanna look at it in more detail. I'll provide a link here. All right, the next question is a function that returns total number of argument that pass to it. And I do not want you to use any loops. So for example, if I do something like, if I have a function called, let's say, x, and if I pass 1, 2, 3, the answer to this, if I do console log here, it should return 3 because I have 1, 2, 3 arguments. All right, so here's the answer to this question. Let's write a function called x equal to a function, and inside what I will do, I would say return. Array has a function called slice, and I can say call this slice function on the arguments object. So every function has an object called arguments, which has a list of arguments that you pass in. But it's like array-like object is not completely array. So if I do this array, empty array dot slice call, it would convert that arguments to an array. So now I have an array. And if I simply just say length, length of the array, if I return it, that should give me the length of all the arguments. So if I do console log x dot x, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this should give me 5. And it gives me 5. All right, so here's the last question. So I have an object with 3 methods, x, y, and z, and then this method simply does log x, log y, and log z. So I want to do this, a method chaining where I can say x, y, and z, and it should print x, y, and z. This is the least weirdest question, but I thought I should include this because it's an interesting one. So pause the video and come up with an answer. All right, so the answer is all you have to do is after each console log, just return a, which is the main object. So if I do that, now if I run this, I would get x, y, z. And the reason is if I return, so when I call x here, a.x, it does a console log and returns a, which means this becomes a. And so I can call it y on it. When I call y, it returns a again. So this becomes a, and I can call z on it. So that's the simple explanation of how. Again, I have a tutorial on method chaining. If you want to check it out, I'll provide a link. All right, so before I say goodbye, let's understand why do people ask such weird question in interview. I consider the 3 different reasons. One reason is flat out, they just want to outsmart you. A lot of time, interviewer is a little bit ignorant. They just want to come up with these tricky questions, and they don't know really how to interview people. And so they'll find this kind of questions on the internet or somewhere and then ask you. So I think the motivation there is very wrong. You should never do that just to freak other people out. This is an interview, not a race. Second reason is sometime interviewer would be asking some normal question related to the project and everything, and suddenly they will ask you one of the weirdest questions to throw you off your game. What's going to happen, and you just freak out a little bit. So they just want to they want to know your temperament, how you handle the situation with failures. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to answer whatever answer you may not get the answer right, but as long as you explain the process, it should be fine. They would understand. All right, so I hope you learned something from this tutorial. And if you did, please like, subscribe, and provide a constructive comment. Thank you.